Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're doing another issue review. Today we're looking at Ultimate Spider-Man number 16. This is kind of an interlude story. This explains to us what's going on elsewhere. You know, not with Peter, not with MJ, and not with Richard, right? So this is by Hickman, has art by Checchetto, which is pretty interesting. Usually, I feel like Checchetto would not be on this sort of story in the run. He'd be kind of on the more mainline stuff. But at the same time, I think that he wanted a chance to draw this sort of stuff, right? So yeah, and then we have with Wilson there to also round out the creators, right? Let me see what he does. I always forget, and I always feel bad about it. But let's see if I go all the way to the end, maybe it'll tell me. Wilson is the color artist, and Corey Petit is the letterer. So this is the April issue, and this actually is about Gwen, and it tells us the story of Mysterio, which is great. So it turns out that Gwen is standing at Harry Osborn's grave. She gets thrown back into her memories. We see a young Gwen. We see her dad tell her that life's not fair, right? After her mother had died. He is trying to explain to her that, death is natural, shit happens, and the best thing that you can do is just try to move forwards, right? Which is not a great thing to tell children, but it is the reality of the world, right? And this concept of life not being fair is valuable to her, and the fact that the dead live on in memories, that it is okay for them to be gone physically because they're still with you, in your heart and in your mind, which is a much better thing to say to children, but not necessarily the best either, because in the grief of childhood, in the loss of a parent, it's kind of hard to really understand that for a while, right? So I appreciate his attempt, but it's kind of difficult either way, right? And then another memory. This is a date with Harry, where they tell each other that they love each other. They really do. And then she gets a call in the middle of that story. And within the memory, she learns that her father has died. And she returns to that older memory of her as a young child. And her father tells her that he's Mysterio, that she will be his successor one day. And that the world isn't what you think. Very cool Now You See Me kind of moment. I really enjoy this. Those movies, the Now You See Me movies are really fun. And they basically are like a Mysterio story. So I thought of those movies while I was reading this, and I think that it added a bit to my experience, which I like that a lot. So there's a table of Mysterios. There's like 7 of them, I think. She is inducted, then she's married to Harry. Then Norman tells her not to let Harry keep her down, to keep her away from her duty, that she has something more important to do than Harry requires her attention for, right? And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if he's telling her because he knows she's Mysterio, or if he's telling her this because he knows that his son is kind of useless and won't amount to anything, and that she is the one that's going to lead the Osborn Corporation into, something else, right? The Oscorp into something else. I don't know. It's kind of unclear, but either way, it's not great for your father-in-law to tell you this, and at the same time, it fits right in with these sorts of characters, right? Then, Christmas. Harry gave her a conspiracy book, and it turns out that it's not a conspiracy book. It's actually a history of the real world, right? And then she meets with her Mysterio friends, and she tells them that they need to tell people the truth. They need to know that the world is not the way it is supposed to be, that something has happened to it, has changed it, right? But they have to do it the right way. They can't just willy-nilly tell people because this is not going to be useful. They have to use the paper, right? And this is when it ties into the earlier parts of the story where Gwen wanted to talk to Ben and J. Jonah Jameson, right? And then another Mysterio finds her, and he tells her, hey, we found Peter and Harry. Then they go to save them. They fire Octavius because Octavius has been tracking Gwen, and then they kill Kraven in cold blood, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed this. And then she finally tells Harry the truth after it turns out that they saved him and that he's still alive, right? And he kind of goes crazy, but then calms down and understands, okay, what do we need to do then, right? And I thought this was cool. I really enjoy that it's a team of villains, but the villainy isn't necessarily there yet. They're still trying to save the world, and they're in love with each other, and this is a really valuable connection, and it's hopefully a connection that will lead them through the success of their plot. But I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop constantly, right? And it's nice that Harry didn't die. I would have liked it if he did. I think that it would have been interesting for him to be the Peter, the Uncle Ben to Peter in this case. But it's understandable that it's not. I think that there is still value in the Green Goblin character, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. And it ends with Harry showing up to his grave and telling her, we will fight and we will win, right? And it was a great issue. I really, really liked it. I thought that this was really phenomenal. Like, this is not a story about Peter. This isn't even about Spider-Man. This is about Spider-Man's villains through this cracked lens, right? And yet I was enthralled the whole time. I think that Hickman, I don't necessarily think I like most of his storytelling. In general, I haven't really read much of him. But when it comes to Spider-Man, he's been doing a great job. I've really, really liked this. I think that it's been really fun. There has been moments where it's like, okay, maybe we need to hurry up a little bit. Maybe there needs to be more action. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that this is an action-oriented comic. I think that this is a comic about people and about this kind of underlying threat narrative and the difficulties of dealing with lies and deception at a global scale, right? Which is maybe a bit too resonant to real life for some people. But I think that this is more of a thriller story than it is like a superhero story. Or maybe it's a thriller within the superhero genre. I don't know how to explain it, but it really feels like something special, and I really like it. I think it's been really fun. I feel the urge to read this in chunks, like instead of reading it individually, but at the same time, each individual issue has felt so good and so valuable and so enjoyable that I kind of like that I've been reading it slowly. So, I kind of struggle with this. In the last review that I did, the one for Thundercats, I realized that, when it comes to that series, it's probably better to trade weight. When it comes to this series, I don't necessarily think that that's necessary. I think that you can read it as it goes. Sure, you'll save some money if you trade weight, but I think that when it comes to Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man, the individual cost of each issue is worth it. In this case, the comic book medium is being used to its fullest ability, and it's been really, really well done, and it's very fulfilling to read. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you thought down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys later.